So good evening and welcome everyone to the April 2025 session of the Richmond Art Gallery's Artist Salon program, featuring our guest tonight, Trevor van den Eijnden. My name is Kathy Tycholis. I am the Richmond Art Gallery's Education and Public Programs Coordinator, and I'm here to host the program and to moderate your questions tonight. First of all, on behalf of the Richmond Art Gallery Association, I would like to welcome you to this program that is hosted by the Richmond Art Gallery, which is located on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Hunkaminam-speaking peoples, which is the nations that are all along the Fraser River Delta, including the Musqueam. And thank you all out there from wherever you are joining us online. Thank you for joining us and supporting the Richmond Art Gallery Association's programming. In a few moments, I will welcome our guest presenter, current president of CARFAC BC, Trevor van den Eijnden, who will lead a presentation about CARFAC, which is the anagram for Canadian Artist Representation, Front des Artistes Canadiens, followed by some time for Q&A with all of you online. But before we begin, just a few housekeeping notes and information about the program overall. For those of you who might be new to the Artist Salon, this is a program designed specifically with artists in mind. It is a monthly series of free talks and events hosted usually on the fourth Wednesday of each month from February to November. The goal of the program is to offer artists a mix of professional development, tips and advice, along with artists' personal stories and experiences to help strengthen and build our artist community, while encouraging artists to keep on making and growing in your own art practice. The Salon does also exist right now as a private Facebook group, which provides sources and resources for artists mainly in the Lower Mainland, for things such as artist calls for exhibitions, artist residencies, any other professional development opportunities, and any local artist events. So also as a place for you to post your events and openings if you would like to be a part of our artist community and to connect with each other. So I welcome you to join our Facebook group, share your art events with each other, and you can learn more about that as well as all the offerings we have at the Richmond Art Gallery at our website, which is richmondartgallery.org. I will do a brief introduction through a bio with Trevor, the president of CARFAC BC. And then knowing he will be discussing CARFAC, I'll let him sort of go into more detail about that. But just so you know out there, he is also a working artist, so he may draw upon his personal experiences as an artist as well as being president of CARFAC BC. So Trevor van Eijinden is a visual artist and educator born in Nova Scotia, currently living in Vancouver, British Columbia. He received 2 simultaneous undergraduate degrees in 2005, a BA from Dalhousie University and a BFA from NSCAD University, that have both had an impact on his practice. In 2015, he completed a Master of Visual Art from Carr University and Design. Having a lifelong interest in education, he has worked as faculty, department head, and academic director at several private and public institutions in the Lower Mainland of BC. His practice as an artist usually coalesces around time, grief, and nature, while as an educator, he focuses on research, history, and cross-media concept-focused production. So welcome, Trevor. I am so happy to have you here tonight. While you're doing your presentation, I'm going to disappear in the background and I will come back to moderate your questions. Again, please feel free to send in your questions anytime throughout. So thank you, Trevor, and I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. So again, my name is Trevor van den Eijnden. I'm the acting president for CARFAC BC. I took over in February. So I'm here today to kind of do a broad strokes overview of basically who CARFAC is and who CARFAC BC is and what we do and how we can assist artists, and also kind of discuss the broader art market, where we might fit into it and where we might be able to assist artists. And it's a fairly information heavy kind of discussion, but there's a Q&A after. And full disclosure, I've 15 years of teaching and I'm very used to that format. So it may be a bit lecture-y, but hopefully not too bad. So I'm just going to switch over to the slideshow now. Yeah, please carry along with me, please. Okay, so my name is Trevor van den Eijnden. I'm a settler Canadian. I'm originally from Pictou, Nova Scotia, and currently living in Vancouver on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I am a multidisciplinary visual artist. So what does that mean exactly? I primarily work in photography, sculpture, installation, and painting, but I pursue kind of concepts and I go from there. And so in addition to that, I have about 15 years of post-secondary teaching, a lot of curriculum development and leadership as well. My research direction is on grief, nature, and time, and especially in how it relates to concepts around the Anthropocene. I got involved with CARFAC because during the pandemic, I think, people felt isolated during that time. And so it was a way for me to connect to art communities and other artists. And it has been a really great way to do that and being part of the board. And so that's kind of a bit about me. If you have any other questions about me, I can answer those later if you have those in the Q&A section. But there's a bit of info there as well. If you are watching on a desktop and you have a mobile device and you want to go to our website, you can use the QR code, or you can just type in or Google CARFAC BC. That's CARFAC. BC.ca. CARFAC nationally was founded in 1968 and provincially was founded in 1990. Sorry, that is a typo, not 1995, but 1990. Our mission is to support visual artists by advocating for fair compensation, for protecting their rights as artists, and for increasing the visibility of their work. We strive to ensure that artists are paid fairly through initiatives like the minimum fee schedule, which I'm going to discuss in a bit more detail later, which sets fair minimum exhibition fees. We also advocate for copyright protections to help artists retain control over their intellectual property. And we also offer advice and mentorship and other things, which I'll get to as well in a later section here. Beyond financial compensation, CARFAC BC and CARFAC National provide some legal resources. We have some sibling organizations that can assist if you're having some legal difficulties. We also do professional development and educational programs and to help artists build sustainable careers. And we do that both at the national level and at the provincial level. We believe that artists' contributions are vital to society, and our goal is to ensure that we are all recognized and celebrated for what we do. And also, I might add, paid for what we do, which is a big thing and an important aspect of what CARFAC does. So CARFAC was founded in 1968 by Jack Chambers and a group of artists. And just want to make sure I'm on the right slide. Yep. Advocating for better representation and fair compensation within the arts community. The vision was fairly simple at the time and kind of remains simple. Artists deserve to be paid fairly for the work that we do. While CARFAC works nationally, CARFAC BC was specifically created to address the unique needs of visual artists here in British Columbia. We have our own vibrant and diverse art scene that's different from the rest of the country in many ways. And so we have our own challenges, we have our own needs in advocacy, and we have our own relationship with the provincial government to work with as well. One of the biggest things that came out of the kind of CARFAC over the last decades has been the minimum fee schedule, which primarily ensures fair payment for artists. It's an established set of payments that an artist should receive dependent on a type of work and depending on the category of gallery or institution with which they're working with. So if the institution has a larger budget, the artist should be paid more. etc. That's kind of a general gist of it. We also advocate for copyright protection. The CARFAC National worked to get the Copyright Act brought in 1988 to help protect artists' work. In the digital age where art can be easily shared or copied, CARFAC has worked tirelessly to ensure artists have the legal tools to protect their intellectual property and control how their work is used. CARFAC BC has also played a major role in shaping arts policy in BC by advocating to provincial and local governments and provide overall support for artists so that they can also advocate for themselves. These efforts have resulted in significant policy changes benefiting the entire arts community here in BC. So why does this history matter? I think the history matters because it establishes that after decades of advocacy work, artists today have better compensation, we have stronger professional support, and we have clear guidelines for protecting our creations. Without CARFAC BC's ongoing efforts, it would be much more difficult to establish yourself in the arts sector, and you would have less resources, less things that which you could use to advocate for yourself. Additionally, our collaboration with other art organizations and government bodies help push for systemic changes that benefit the broader arts community. These partnerships provide new opportunities and ensure that the needs of artists are considered in policy discussions. So, as artists, I really believe that we are the future of creative communities here. So, when we talk about CARFAC BC, we're talking about advocacy to make our paths smoother, to make our work more recognized, and to make our compensation more equitable than artists had in the past. These protections and opportunities that we have now are a result of the decades of hard work done at the national and provincial levels across Canada. And apologies, I forgot to advance some of the slides, but I'll linger on them for a brief moment here. So this is the fee schedule that I was mentioning earlier. So if you do have a separate mobile device, and you can scan that QR code, or we're going to drop that information in the chat later as well. You can also Google it, and it's indexed fairly high. So what is the minimum fee schedule? So basically this gets into what our services are. What do we provide for artists? So I'm going to back up a little bit. I think maybe, oh, there we go. Okay, it just jumped ahead too quickly. Copyrights for visual artists. So this is another sibling organization to CARFAC. And this is where we can direct artists for legal advice. And so this is a really great resource to look at as well. If you have questions and you want to reach out to CARFAC BC, we can also help connect you to the right people as well. So let's talk a little bit about what we do, what our core services are. So the first big thing that we do is advocacy. So one of CARFAC BC's primary roles is advocating for artists at all levels. This means ensuring that your rights are represented in key policy decisions. That means that we're pushing for fair compensation, we're pushing for copyright protections, and we're pushing for proper representation in conversations about funding and resources. This advocacy helps make the arts sector fairer and ensures the value of your work and that it is recognized. So essentially, we're advocating for legal rights, we're advocating for copyright, exhibition, and reproduction rights. We're advocating for appropriate fees to be paid. We're liaisoning between different sectors and government. And through our membership, we also provide benefits to members as well. And we're always looking to grow and expand those benefits to our members as well. And we'll talk briefly about that down below as well. Another big thing that we do is education. So CARFAC National has maintained a fairly steady amount of educational programming. CARFAC BC, we're kind of getting started up again, and we're going to be doing quite a bit this year after taking a bit of a pause. to kind of realign ourselves. And I can explain that a bit in the Q&A if you guys like, but one thing I would say is if any of you have any suggestions or specific requests for a kind of an educational thing, an artist talk from CARFAC, a workshop, etc., by all means, you can ask away in the chat and I'll take note of that. But some of the things that we do artist toolkits. I have some examples I can show later during the Q&A, but they're also indexed on our website as well. We do workshops and seminars. So anything as diverse as like how to price your work to how to photograph your work are some examples that we've done in the past. How to design business cards, how to create branding for yourself, things like that. We work with publications. We had a really great celebrated publication called Artist Talk. It's no longer in print. It's listed on our front page. We are looking to bring a second version of that to life again. But these are the types of things that we kind of work in terms of education as well. In terms of professional development, we do have a mentorship program. We also do organize networking events, sometimes conferences and workshops in person, but often these days mostly online. We are always looking to collaborate with other artists, galleries, or institutions as well, kind of like what we're doing tonight with the Richmond Art Gallery. These gatherings can provide opportunities to learn from your peers, to build relationships and expand your professional network, creating a more collaborative environment within which to grow. I think in the creative industry, the greatest capital that you have is who you know and getting out there and talking to people and meeting people. And then legal support. So I mentioned that as well. The legal challenges such as navigating contracts or protecting intellectual property are part of every artist's journey. CARFAC BC offers legal support to help you protect your work and make informed decisions regarding your rights. Knowing that support is available gives artists peace of mind as they grow their practice. So we do have some publications on our website in terms of legal resources that you can look at. Artist contracts, agreements for visual and media artists, as an example. And then, of course, we do have this sibling organization that I mentioned before. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't really get into those details in a public talk, but I can say that people have benefited from reaching out before and tackling certain things. I can't also talk about specifics because of privacy, but I do think it is an important thing to consider. So to conclude, I think in this section of the talk, CARFAC BC support is integral to the success of visual artists in BC, whether you need advocacy, education, legal help, or networking opportunities. CARFAC BC is here to guide you through the challenges of the arts sector. Membership gives you access to valuable resources that help protect your rights and foster your growth as a professional artist. If you're serious about your career, I highly encourage you to explore membership with CARFAC BC. I think it was a really, getting involved with it was a really important thing for me to do as well. Again, kind of keeping that sanity going during the pandemic. So some of the challenges and opportunities that are kind of facing us today as artists in BC. I'm not really sure where to begin, so I have some prepared notes, but let's just, being an artist, it can be, I think inconsistency is kind of a word I would use, and it's kind of an inconsistent income, an inconsistent rate at which your work is seen. So you might have one year where you have 10 shows and another year where you have one, and it can seem fickle, but the reality is there, and then how we navigate it and the support that we get to navigate it is also really important. So inconsistent income, financial instability, under-evaluation, art is often undercompensated despite the skill and any investment that you do into the work. And that's part of the reason why we have the fee schedule, but we can also connect people with mentors if you're looking at selling your work commercially and you're not sure which to value it at. Like, I have my own personal take on how to do that, but we do not provide, our fee schedule is designed for public institutions, public facing, not for commercial galleries. And there can be a lot of variation, even city to city in Canada, in terms of pricing, but we can connect you with members, other mentors from our membership, where you can get a sense that way as well by talking to people directly. We also have systemic inequities. Emerging Indigenous, marginalized artists face additional barriers. And so those are things that we can also provide mentorship for, advice, and connection. The economic realities of being an artist can be difficult. Many artists face inconsistent income, sometimes struggling for months, then experiencing bursts of work. Often artists take on multiple jobs to support themselves because the art alone rarely generates enough income. So these things, along with additional systemic inequalities, can make things very difficult. So again, that's why we're here and we can support. And we're just like an email away. Just send a message and we can do our best to help you. Let's look at some success stories. So again, I have to keep this kind of vague because of privacy, but here are some artists who benefited from CARFAC BC's resources. One artist, for example, was able to secure fair compensation for exhibitions after being assisted by us in our minimum fee schedule. Before, they had accepted much lower fees for their exhibits and for their work, and they were able to get a higher rate of pay and a higher rate of exposure as well with that. They were, in the end, they were able to set more sustainable rates, meaning they were able to fund continued artistic work and continued creative practice. Another artist faced copyright infringement, and I have faced that myself many, many years ago as a student, and I didn't know what to do. And I really wish I had known at that time. But that person in that case had their work reproduced without permission. With legal support provided through CARFAC BC, or connected rather through CARFAC BC, they're able to defend their intellectual property and receive compensation for that unauthorized use of work. Several Indigenous artists have shared how CARFAC BC helped them navigate the challenges of being both artists and members of underrepresented communities. The advocacy efforts and focus on inclusivity allowed these artists to gain visibility, access resources, and connect with like-minded individuals. So I think it's just some examples of success stories of working with CARFAC BC. So if you are struggling with something, just reach out and we'll see what we can do to help. I think advocacy is really another big part of what we do. And I think that's part of advocacy, is also helping individual artists. It's not just talking to governments or organizations. It's working with artists one-on-one. I didn't join CARFAC to work with government. I joined CARFAC so I could work with artists. And so it is something that is really part of our mission. And it's really, like, we encourage you to reach out, really, if you are experiencing anything and you need support. These are just some acknowledgements of other difficulties that artists are going through. Fair compensation, copyright protection, increased visibility. I'm just going to leave these slides up for a quick second here, in case it might spark a question, but I think I spoke to most of these already. Another thing that CARFAC offers is the Indigenous Protocols for Visual Arts. So that is something offered by CARFAC National. That is the link, that is the QR code to take you there as well. So I just wanted to take a moment to explain what this is. So I do have a little bit of a write-up here that I'll read from as well. So reconciliation is an ongoing process of repairing harms done to Indigenous people. acknowledging historical injustices like colonization and cultural erasure, and working towards healing. For visual artists, reconciliation involves recognizing the immense contributions of Indigenous artists have made and respecting their artistic practices, stories, and traditions. And that is something that we hold very deeply at CARFAC BC. Cultural sovereignty is the idea that Indigenous people should control their cultural expressions, free from appropriation or exploitation. It allows Indigenous artists to reclaim their voices, preserve traditions, and create art at their own terms, on their own terms. By embracing these concepts, we make space for Indigenous artists to represent their cultures authentically and uphold their right to be seen and heard in the arts world. And that is something that we provide connection. If you're a young or starting out in your career as an Indigenous artist and you're looking for connection, we do have mentorship opportunities as well for Indigenous artists. And we are always looking for Indigenous artists to join the board as well, if you're interested in volunteering and joining. I think representation matters deeply. And I think it's, we want your voices, basically, is what I'm trying to say. In the past, CARFAC BC has implemented several initiatives to support Indigenous artists and dismantle systemic barriers. This includes mentorship programs, like I mentioned, that connect emerging Indigenous artists with experienced professionals, helping them navigate exhibitions, negotiate fair compensation, and intellectual property rights, I should say. CARFAC BC also advocates for Indigenous representation in galleries, exhibitions, and arts events by ensuring that Indigenous cultural practices are respected and not appropriated, that they safeguard the authenticity of Indigenous art. And additionally, CARFAC BC pushes for better access to funding and professional development tailored to the needs of Indigenous artists, ensuring fairer distribution of resources and giving Indigenous voices a platform in the broader arts community. We are also currently actively in the process of decolonial approaches at CARFAC BC as well, in terms of how we're organized and how we communicate as well. So that is an ongoing practice for us. Oh, sorry. So just as kind of a summary, I think the main things to kind of take away and to know, of course, our minimum fee schedule is really important. That's how you advocate for better pay for yourself. One thing that's also important about the fee schedule that I have experienced as an artist is often there are grants or art calls where you are required to have a certain number of certified CARFAC paying shows, which means that those exhibits that you were in, you were paid at least the minimum fee as spelled in the CARFAC kind of fee schedule. And also the advocacy work that we do, as I mentioned, one-on-one or in a larger scope, working with organizations or governments. Our educational resources is something that we're going to be ramping up more for CARFAC BC as well. I have a background in education. It's something that I'm really passionate about. And so it's something that I'm going to be spearheading myself personally to make sure that we're getting more workshops and things out to people. And our future vision is really an ongoing commitment to equitable access, fair compensation, decolonization, and really inclusive representation. So I would also invite you to just explore our resources, both at CARFAC National and CARFAC BC. One thing I will say is that the CARFAC BC website and the CARFAC National website are going to change sometime in the near future. It'll be, at least the CARFAC BC one will be more expansive, and we're going to be going through a rebrand as well. So, you know, do navigate through it, explore it today, but come back and check on it in the future as well. So, yeah, that's kind of the summary. I'm hoping you guys have lots of questions. As a teacher, I usually rely on questions. That shows that there's interest and understanding, and also maybe holes for me to fill in for you guys. So I do hope you have lots and lots of questions, and I hope to hear from you. And Kathy, I think that's the last slide. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Trevor. So yes, I have asked people to please send us your questions into the Q&A. Just to kick us off, because you had mentioned this early on, Trevor, you said you would show us the artist toolkits. If you could maybe expand on that a little bit. And
so I'll do a quick screen share then. Here we go. I prepared some of the websites just to kind of walk through. So these are the artist toolkits that are readily available on the CARFAC BC website. So the toolkits are kind of designed for different perspectives. So the first one, emerging artists and new graduates. So if you're a recent graduate from art school, I would even say if you're a newcomer to the province of BC, this is an important kit to grab. You don't have to be a student or a new graduate, but just new and you're starting out here in BC, this could be a good one for you to grab. And then down below, we have more established artists. This is a toolkit. So if you're already kind of established, you consider yourself a professional artist. Public art galleries and art organizations. If you're looking at applying for one and you kind of want to know information or standards we might hold galleries to or want them to hold themselves to, I should say, that's where you could look. And then local governments as well down here. So these are the four main kind of ones that are here. They're click download PDF. You can view it on anything. And then there's a bunch more here. And if you go through the services, you're going to find more information here as well, such as the BC Gallery Catalog. So this is not every gallery in the province, but it's I'd say most, but we're still working on it. There's always new galleries that kind of pop up. So that's a good kind of resource as well. For some reason, it's not loading, but might be my internet. Actually, it looks like my browser is frozen. So, okay, but please explore these options and I will see if I can fix that. So,
right.
okay.
We do have just a link to the website in the chat as well. So, and you did have that up for a bit so people can, because those will take some time for people to browse through for sure, but
Perfect.
they seem very useful when I was looking at them for sure. So just a few questions. One was if you could speak to CARFAC minimums being too low as fair pay. This artist is saying that most galleries, even the largest regional galleries, are paying only the minimum, never above, and these minimums are far too low. I would suggest they increase by 10 times, as grants are more difficult to secure. Only 20% of the projects funded by BC Arts Council this year. And I believe these minimums were set when grants were more plentiful, and artists are now often only getting exhibition fees, which are token when there is no funds for production.
So I don't personally set the fees. Sorry, I just have to close my door. I don't personally set the fees. That's established at a national level, but they are constantly under review. And I mean, I'm not sure if there's a question there if you want me to speak to it. They are the minimums, and I do think in general, the bigger the institution, the hopefully you can negotiate more from them. One way to negotiate, I would say, is also a production budget in addition to the artist budget as well, the artist payment budget, which is what the fee schedule really establishes, is how much the artist is paid for their work being shown. And they are a minimum, and they are what the national organization has determined is fair given the budgeting constraints all across all levels. But that is something I will bring forward, I think, and I do understand the frustration, having exhibited in galleries myself before, and spending more money on it than I received in grants or payment from the gallery. So I definitely understand I just don't, I'm not sure. There's nothing that I can do about the fee schedule itself directly, but that is something that I can bring up as well too.
How often is that? Is that like an annual thing that is reviewed, or every few years?
It's reviewed every year. So right now we have the 2025, 2026, and I believe the 2027 posted. And 2026, so that's because sometimes not sometimes, most of the time, bigger gallery shows are planned years in advance. So those will be adjusted every year. I think in January, I think officially they are adjusted. And so they will go up typically, not down, but they are adjusted every year. And so the projections will be adjusted as well. Yeah.
I just want to throw in my 2 cents as someone who works in a nonprofit gallery. We struggle to pay those fees. I mean, I know I do for my programming. So I think this is a question for Canada Council and BC Arts Council who have really frozen funding for so long. Because I know we struggle to pay those fees, and I totally get it as an artist too. I understand it's not enough. So it is kind of this, if we can all band together and advocate, because it's not the galleries keeping lots of money. And in terms of nonprofit, I mean, different for commercial probably, but for the nonprofit public galleries, they are struggling as well. And there are a lot of the smaller places that are actually closing because of that. So I think this is a bigger issue that we all need to address as Canadian artists, of the culture of funding continually being cut towards the arts, and we're all fighting each other for it. It feels like, to me, a lot of times.
And that is something I think at the advocacy level, which is important, and something that I think like we kind of all need to do. The bigger organizations obviously have more say, or more influence, I should say. But yeah, budgeting it for the arts. In BC, the arts combined, if you take all the different arts kind of genres that you can think of, arts and entertainment, etc. Like, no, entertainment is budgeted separately. Sorry. But we're the 5th largest industry in all of BC, and the budget cuts affect that. And that affects the prosperity of BC and the prosperity of the artists. And so it is a macro topic, not like a more lower level topic. It's something that really needs to be part of kind of the way we talk to our governments or communicate with our governments. And I will say, on the front page of the CARFAC National website, there is some tips and guides on how to communicate to your prospective MPs in this upcoming election, and how to communicate your desire to hear about the arts and things like that from, or related to that, from your prospective MPs and from your MPs when they are finally elected and sent to Ottawa. So.
Great, thank you. Yes, another great resource for sure. A question about, because you have mentioned your events and workshops, is there an email list people can join to?
Oh, yes, there is. Absolutely. So on the website, I did get it unfroze, so I'll reshare again. So this is where you join if you would like to join. So it's fairly straightforward, etc. It is a nominal fee, and this is how it's broken down as well. But we are not for profit. This is one of our main revenue methods. And I can go into more detail if you're interested in what we offer as well, but there's more information on the website as well here, and there's more to be added as well. And if we go down here under Contact Us, there's the email there as well. And we do have social media. We do have a mailing list that's kind of general, but then we have a members only mailing list. And in the members only mailing list, that's where we include things like calls for artists, employment opportunities, things like that, that are exclusive to our members. But I would say more than a mailing list, I would follow on Instagram, because that's updated weekly, several times a week. That's where we post our featured artists from BC, and we promote their work for them and work with those artists as well. So that's something that I would really encourage is the Instagram page as well.
Great, thank you. A question asking, and I mean, this might be something you already provide, but someone's asking, with future rebranding and possible growth, is there going to be any consideration to providing support and resources for legacy holders of a deceased artist?
Oh, that
And
is
I would think family members and yeah.
that is a really great question. I do not have an answer for that off the cuff, but I can be reached through that email, bc@carfac.ca, with that question. And then, so if you did send me an email there, you can address it to Trevor. It is shared between myself and our communications coordinator together. One of us will respond with the correct information for that as well. Absolutely. I do believe there is information and resources for that. I'm just not able to pull that off the top of my head right now. So please send me an email and I will coordinate or let you know what we are doing to work towards that. So.
Great, thank you. Here's a question from someone who's been a CARFAC member for many years in BC and loves CARFAC and the work you do. And if they're going to have a complaint, it would be that it tends to be very Vancouver oriented, where, you know, maybe out in further fields, the idea of paying an artist for anything, and also because there are fewer places to show that might not be, you know, art centric, it's unheard of, and people just get a blank stare when they're asking for a CARFAC fee. And I have heard that from people that I don't, you know, I think that just happens everywhere. Canada's a very big country with a lot of artists living everywhere. So any advice for those who might not be in the city?
I think that's really good feedback. That is something that we're working on as well. I will say that we did receive our first operating grant. So we got a small grant over a 3-year period that allowed us to hire an executive director. So Sharon Marshall is our executive director. She actually lives in northern Vancouver Island. Our communications coordinator lives in the Lower Mainland. I live in the Lower Mainland, but I think almost the entire rest of the board is now from kind of the northern coast or Vancouver Island. So because our board meetings are now allowed to be online, similar to this format since COVID, that has made it possible for regional artists in other parts of the province to participate. One of our past presidents was actually from Kelowna as well. So just in the last 5 years, Melanie Nugent Noble. So I would, first of all, I would say if you are a regional artist and you would like to join the board, please, by all means. We are always looking for new members and new perspectives. And then the other thing I could say is, even here in the Lower Mainland, people may not hear about CARFAC. So it does make it harder when you're up north, but I would say when you are able to cite that there is a national level organization that has a minimum fee schedule, you're able to use that as a tool to educate and to kind of request or demand or require that you be paid you be compensated fairly for the work that you do, even in a rural community. I don't think geography limits your ability to understand or grasp something if you're introduced to it in an appropriate or professional way. But part of the reason why we're looking for regional representation on the board is so that we can have those regional connections as well. So no pressure, but you know, if you know anyone or would like to join the board, that's always open as well. It's a volunteer board, and we meet monthly, unless you're part of a committee, and then you might meet more frequently than that. Anyways,
Yeah.
hopefully that answers the question. I would just say, like, again, I'm from Nova Scotia, but I'm from a rural part of Nova Scotia. And if I were living there and working as an artist, I know that I would really use kind of this, not as like, this is the city's fee schedule, you know, this is a national level fee schedule. It doesn't matter if you're in Nunavut, or if you're in Newfoundland, or if you're in BC or Alberta. This is the minimum that you should be paid. And you can utilize that for your own self-advocacy. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think considering CARFAC's always been a volunteer-run organization, it's done some pretty amazing work in every province, because every province has a chapter. And but yeah, at the same time, I know how hard it is to keep a volunteer organization going.
Yeah.
For as long as it has been. So but yeah, so the more people you can get to join, definitely the stronger the organization becomes.
Yeah, and the stronger the perspectives at the table. So yeah.
Someone's asking about if CARFAC has done any policy advocacy to protect working studios. I guess those that are undergoing zoning or rezoning, redeveloping, eviction noticed. This person's saying that artists seems largely unprotected in these scenarios.
That isn't something that I'm familiar with, unfortunately, because that's dealing with property law and regulation, and like ownership. And when you're leasing something, ownership is not really something that I think our legal advice kind of covers. However, if you are currently experiencing that, and you would like to explore if there are options, send us a message and we'll connect you with who might be appropriate. The answer may not be what you're hoping it will be, but at least it'll give you clarity, and maybe it might be something helpful. But I'm not a lawyer, but I do think typically that's something well beyond our ability to assist with, because it comes down to property rights and ownership. So
yeah, to add to that, we just so happen next month we're having a talk with I think 2 different organizations who are looking at cultural land and land protections for artists and cultural venues. It's part of the series that the city does. So it's definitely municipal zoning, all that thing. It's a lot. So I would recommend you check our website for that coming up next month. But yeah, there's a lot of different players involved in terms of city staff, zoning people, engineering, real estate people. So yeah, it's a big.
And it's also it's also a social problem. I think
Yes.
I don't want to get too philosophical or off on this, but as an artist who was rent evicted twice out of places, to now I'm in a protected city owned, I'm out of the arts factory here in Vancouver. So there's some security in that now, but in the past, like one building was slated to be torn down, so we moved out, and the building is still standing, and it could have still been housing artists. That was 7 years ago, so it's a little irritating, to say at the very least. But that's where advocacy work for the city and things like that comes in. But in terms of individual support, that's where, like, we'd have to refer you to any legal assistance. But we're always advocating for more spaces, or for the city to zone or create more affordable spaces, because that's the other thing too, is that spaces are sometimes created, but affordable has different definitions to different people, I think. So
Yes, especially in the Lower Mainland, I think.
especially in the Lower Mainland. Yes.
Yes, yes. I was just going to ask, because I know this is something that comes up I get asked by artists a lot because you had mentioned mentors. What would be sort of that process if someone is looking for a mentor as an artist?
So we do have some members in the past that have contacted us and said they would like to be a member. That part of our programming has kind of gone a bit to sleep the last little while, but we really want to bring it back. So if we have a member that wants to be a mentor, and then we have someone and we think that they're a good match, we might introduce them. If someone reaches out and there's someone in my personal network that I think they might benefit from, or another member of our board thinks that they might benefit from, then we can also make a recommendation and we can connect people that way as well. But that's essentially what it is. It's connecting people. So it's not like I would say, an official mentorship program, but it is a way to connect people who might have more experience or more knowledge and who actively want to share that or support another person through that. So does that answer the question? So.
Yeah. I was just wondering the procedure, because I do get asked that a lot from artists. And I guess just in connection to that, I mean, you had mentioned you're starting to plan workshops and events. Is it more just BC, or are there ever more Canada, like CARFAC Canada, that plans bigger things? Or
CARFAC National, or as we call it internally, but like CARFAC is just CARFAC. They do workshops and things all the time. Some are members only, others are open to the public. Anytime they're running something and it relates to BC, we share that on our Instagram and on our LinkedIn. And so we make sure that any audiences that we have access to are aware of it. But I would also like monitor the CARFAC National website as well, and the CARFAC National Instagram, etc., for communications as well. I think they're pretty active on LinkedIn as well. We're not super active on Facebook or Twitter. I think those accounts are just up so that people can connect with us, but we're not really posting or utilizing those platforms currently anymore. We are new to Blue Sky as well. So we do have an account there, but I mean like super new, I think just in the last month. So I don't have any information to share on that quite yet, but our Instagram, I think is our primary and best way of communicating what's going on. So yeah.
Great. There was a follow-up question to when we were talking about the disparity of the fees and raising of fees for artists. And I'm trying to turn this into a question. Sorry, Zoe. Just agrees that we demand as a collective, realizing, gallery struggle, but also artists struggle who are not being paid for everything they do to have a gallery show, including the visits, the planning, the meetings, and all that. Do you have any suggestions of how, I guess, we can come together as a collective and start, I guess, just pushing for more of that for artists and better fees and better pay, and just within the whole art ecosystem, I guess, not just artists, but galleries, artist collectives, all that?
On how, I think the best way is to find an organization that has the capacity and to work with them or within them. I think is a way to kind of address that. But it's also something I don't know if I have a good answer for that, to be honest. I just think it's something that you have to kind of do, and if you find other like-minded people and a network can grow, and if you connect with other organizations, I think if you were to do it independently, I would start small and try to connect with other pre-existing arts organizations who might be able to leverage their membership. So if there was something like you were going to start a campaign, or even something small to begin, like a petition to be sent to the provincial government, and you wanted access you wanted that shared with member networks with different arts organizations, I would reach out to those art organizations like CARFAC BC, and we would take a look at it and make sure the language is appropriate for our membership, meaning like no swear words or things like that. And then we would share it. And that way you could connect or leverage the membership of these other organizations. And then there are other arts organizations as well out there that you could leverage. And that's how I would start. A movement doesn't start big. It starts small. And so I would start with that and find like-minded people that way. Yeah. It's also, it's a frustrating time because I think our minds are focused on a lot of other things that are going on in the world and in Canada right now. But I think it's also a hopeful time because I've seen a lot of activism kind of spring up from the grassroots just in the last few months. You might find that you have a voice that's heard. So it might be the time for that. So yeah, that's, I think, the best advice I can give.
Great. And that person responded just saying it would be great if galleries were advocating for artists as part of their job because they need artists and are in more secure positions. And I do think there is like a mood change. I do think a lot more people that are working in arts organizations, not just galleries, are artists or were artists. I mean, I would sort of call myself a lapsed artist because I have no time anymore, but and there's a lot of curators out there that are artists as well. Like, I think the understanding of what artists go through and what they need to survive is much more prevalent now than, say, it was 10-20 years ago. So there is definitely that move of everyone I mean, they may not be able to change things, but they understand that, yes, the artist needs to be respected, the artist needs to get paid. We work in it together. If it's an ecosystem that we're all in together. Sadly, change is slow. But yeah, but there is glimmers of hope out there. So yeah. I don't really see other questions, so I was just gonna ask you about being a member. What would it I guess, what's your last pitch to encourage all of us out there to become CARFAC members and to join up with you?
I would say like the more membership we have, the more clout we have when we are doing our advocacy. So that's something that's really important because like we state our membership, we state our connection to the community when we are doing advocacy work. That's really important. We are trying to expand the board of directors and what we do. We want to be a more inclusive board. So joining as a member, typically you join first and then kind of feel things out and then you can join the board after. But that's a way to be directly involved with CARFAC, and I think that's really important. And the other thing too is I think representation, I think diversity really matters, and I think that the more of us that are connected through this organization, the stronger it's going to be. I also think if we're going to look at it from a very self-centered kind of point of view, right, there is benefit from being in the organization. There are discounts that you can achieve or receive, sorry, with different stores and institutions. We do have insurance available for artists if you're a member at a discounted rate, which there's information on the website about that. We also have a bunch of artist like template stuff through the national site, like contracts and things like that, which are covered in your membership, or you can buy them one at a time. But at the membership fee, it's better to just do that in an annual membership for $50, and then you can download all those documents. And so there's a lot of resources available. So you definitely do get your money's worth for sure in terms of professional art practice. by joining, and yeah, and then by being an active member, you get more out of that as well. So yeah, that would be my kind of say. And it's also like for me getting involved with CARFAC, I've been a member since 2014, very passively. And then I got involved during the pandemic with the board and got more directly involved. And it was really like it kind of saved my sanity at a time where I had to leave work because of some health issues. And it kind of kept that thread going and kept me connected to other artists in a way that was like really, it felt tangible, even though we were all connected through this kind of virtual network. And yeah, so I do think that's an important aspect of it, as well as the community. Yeah. So.
Great, thank you. I mean, I've sort of done various workshops with CARFAC over the years, and I always appreciate the hard work of everybody that's involved, the super important work of everybody that's involved. And I just wish more artists knew about it, because the resources you have are really useful and, you know, just something that artists need and are always asking about. And so much work has already been done. So thank you. You got a very sweet comment early on about how did you come to be so charming and generous? Very impressed with your thorough knowledge of the issues and inherent kindness to other artists. Thank you. And I agree. So thank you so much for this, Trevor. It's been great, really informative. I'm hoping it, you know, gets a lot of artists worked up to join as well.
Yeah.
We're a very important organization for sure.
And thank you everyone for coming. I'm scanning the names. I think I see a former student of mine, Carly, maybe, but hello. Thank you everyone for coming out for a talk. I'm not really used to talking at. I'm usually more a conversation type person. So yeah, if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out and email. We'll get back in touch. But one thing I will say about emailing is we are volunteer basis, and our program coordinator who monitors the email most, she works Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. So you should expect a response within 2 days, but you may not get it right away because she may not be working that day. So yeah, but otherwise, please do send an email and we will get back to you. So.
Great, thank you so much. A lot of thank yous in the Q&A as well. So thank you everyone out there for joining us tonight. Thank you so much, Trevor, for sharing your knowledge with us tonight. And hopefully you can all come back and join us next month for our next artist salon, and keep your eyes out for the video of this recording as well. So thank you everyone. Thank you so much, Trevor.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good night, everybody. Good night.